Before I get started showing you the features in Origin itself, I just wanted to show you a few quick things on the website. So first of all, if you go to the home page, which is originlab.com, you can see that there is a logo here for 2023. If you click on that logo, it'll immediately take you to our highlights page, which then provides you a overview of all of the key features and improvements in Origin 2023. I would be pretty much following this sequence of list of features here. Another page I wanted to bring your attention to was if you go to the support menu at the top, and if you click on Help Center, then that takes you to the main support page. And this page is probably a good page that you may want to bookmark, because there are a whole host of resources here that can be useful to you: video tutorials, a link to a technical blog, FAQs, user forums, graph gallery, case studies, etc. And one of the links here is Origin software release history. So if you click on that, you will see the release history for all the past versions. As you may already know, we release 2 versions every year, one around April, one around October, November. So you can see 2023 was released in November. And the nice thing here too is that every version here is a link. So for example, if you have 2021B and you want to see what was added in 2022, 2022B, 2023, you can simply click on any of these links and it will take you to the highlight page for that version. You can see the same thing here as well. If you hover on this link here, there's a list of all the versions here. So you could see from here and open any particular version and browse and see the features. Okay. Feel free to ask questions. One of my colleagues from tech support, James Chen, has also joined, so he will be helping as well. So feel free to type questions in the chat window or the Q&A window, and I'll try to monitor them as well. I may not be able to get to all of the questions. I just wanted to let you know that you can reach out to us anytime. And that's another thing I wanted to show on the support page. If you go to support and the main support page, on the top right corner, you'll see submit a ticket. So you can click on that to submit a ticket to ask questions. So you could come back and submit a ticket saying, hey, I watched the webinar. I have some related questions. Here is my data, and just type in your questions. We are very prompt in answering those tickets. So now, without much further ado, let's get started with the features in 2023. So I have a project here with subfolders arranged for various new features and improvements in Origin. So let me go through these one by one. So the first feature that we did is improvements to folder. This involves folder notes, folder toolbar, seesawing between folders, duplicating folder, and pinning windows. So let me show them. In Project Explorer, at any level, at any folder, you can right click and you can click on the folder icon and a toolbar will pop up and you can add folder notes. So this is a note window. The note window is not new. Also, the note window can be formatted with origin rich text or HTML or Markdown. That's also not new. That was introduced a few versions ago. So here I can type, this is my heading, for example, and then right click and apply a paragraph style such as heading 1, and then Control M will render it. So if I hit Control M, it goes to edit mode. If I hit again, it renders it. Then I can put that notes window back into my folder. So it's there for me to access anytime, but if I hold my control key and hover, it shows the notes. So that's what's new, that you can put a note hidden at the folder level and reference it whenever you want. So for example, I have a set of folders here. I have a reference sensor and I have individual sensors with their own graph and curve fit results. So at this level, I have added a node. So if I hover, you will see this node pops up. It's basically showing me the picture of the sensor and the sensor specifications. So this way you can annotate your project nicely and keep whatever notes you want at each folder level, and then simply hover by holding the control key to go look at the notes later. Okay. So that's one of the folder improvements. Another improvement we did is that, let's say you have many folders and you want to flip through them quickly. Now we have a new toolbar which is docked by default right above Project Explorer, and there are buttons here to go backward and forward through the folders. So you can flip through and go through all the folders. Okay. Another feature is, let's say I want to compare reference sensor folder and sensor 4. There is a button here, seesaw. So if I click the seesaw button, it'll keep flipping back and forth between the two folders that I just visited. So this way you can see, okay, here's your reference graph and here is your sensor 4. Okay. A nice feature related to the seesaw is, let's say I want to take this window and show it on that other folder. So I make this window active, and here's a button here that says add active window shortcut for seesaw. If I click that and if I seesaw, you'll see that it's seesawed back to sensor 4, but it's showing me a copy of this reference sensor from that folder right next to my sensor 4 graph. So this way I can compare, hey, how does sensor 4 look compared to reference sensor? Obviously bad. This is a bad sensor. So this is another convenience feature, that while you seesaw, you can have a copy of a particular window show up in the other folder, and the copy is placed with what we call as a shortcut, and that's not new. Adding a shortcut of one window to another window is not new, and usually the shortcut has a home button. If I click the home button, it'll go back to wherever that original window existed, in this case the graph which existed in that reference sensor folder. Okay. Questions, comments, please feel free to type them, and I'll try to monitor them as well. Let me see. You can put them in the chat window. That would be the most convenient. Okay. There is also a Q&A window, but you can use the chat window, which is more convenient. I'll keep monitoring the chat window. Okay. Another feature that we introduced related to folders is you can click on a particular folder, and in the mini toolbar that pops up, you can duplicate the entire folder. Okay, so if I click duplicate, it makes me a copy with all the windows that existed in there. So in this case, for example, I have the sensor 4 window duplicated. Now I can go to my data connector, click on data source, and go find another file. So let me say I bring in sensor 5 and click OK. So now that data comes in, and the analysis has been set to auto update. So everything auto updated. So this is now only thing is the folder name itself doesn't update. So I'll just have to go to manually update that. So this way I could set up a folder with a multitude of windows, my train of analysis, whatever you want to do, simply duplicate and change the data as a quick way of batch analysis, or a quick way of duplicating your analysis. Any questions, comments on these features? Oh, pin window, sorry, I forgot to show that. So the feature about pin window is that, let's say I have a whole bunch of windows in this folder. I'm just going to add some blank windows, okay? And if I right click on a title, I can select pin window. And what that essentially does is, if I go to the window menu and if I go arrange windows and open the dialog, this is a new feature we added in previous version, to arrange windows by horizontal or vertical using Project Explorer order or window name, etc. Different ways you can select to arrange windows. If I arrange them, my pinned window will still stay on top. It doesn't get counted in the window arrangement. So this way, for example, let's say you have a notes window pertinent to that particular folder, you can always pin it and keep it on top. Okay, you can always unpin it by going here and changing the pin status. Okay, questions, comments, please feel free to type them in. This webinar is for you. We welcome your comments and questions. Okay, let's move on. The next set of features is related to worksheet enhancements. And here I have a few things to show. We have introduced a feature called banded rows to color rows in the worksheet. We have improved worksheet export as image. You can copy the worksheet as HTML or EMF. You can export a whole sheet to Excel, and cell formatting will be maintained. In previous versions, it was not maintained. You can set up frozen panes, and you can also hide unhide sheets. So let's go through those. First, let's look at banded windows. So I have some raw data here, multiple columns of sensor data, and I have performed descriptive statistics. So here's the statistics table in the hierarchical report sheet. Let me click on this icon here and make a copy. Okay, create copy as new sheet. This is not new. This has existed for many versions. Let me hold the control key and make this a bit larger so we can see more clearly. Okay, now let's do some formatting. I'm going to double click on this column and I'm going to say set it to 3 decimal places and apply it to all columns on the right, okay, to make the data look more appealing. Then I'm going to select multiple columns here, and from my toolbar here, formatting toolbar, I'm going to center the numbers. Just some formatting I wanted to do to make the numbers look nice. Now, if I click outside of all the columns, as you may already know, we have mini toolbars. Depending on where you click, different mini toolbars pop up. So if I click outside of all columns, the page level mini toolbar pops up, and a new button has been added in this version called banded rows. So if I click on that, it'll color the rows with alternate banded color. Okay. Now if I click again, you will see a new button appeared because I turned on banded, and this one decides the banded colors. So I can go here and change. I can change my banded color. I can pick any color theme I want. Let's say I want a light blue color, and you can also set a background. Let's say I want a light yellow background and click OK. So now the background changed to yellow and the banded colors also changed. Okay, so this makes the readability better when you are working with many rows of data. Okay, what's nice about this is also now I can copy this table. So I can go to edit, copy, and you'll see there is copy sheet as HTML EMF. So it will put both HTML and EMF objects on the clipboard. So now let's go to PowerPoint. Let me go to first slide, right click, and just do a regular paste. I can also do a Control V. If I do this, it's actually pasting the HTML object. So this is HTML. Okay. Let me go to another slide. Right click here and let me do paste special. Okay. So let me see, where is it? Insert. Every version of Office is a little different. Paste. Let me do paste special. Then you will see there is HTML, EMF, and WMF. If I choose EMF, then it'll be a picture of my sheet. Okay, so this is a nice picture with all the color and formatting that I did in Origin. And you'll notice that in Origin, the color banded color extends all the way to the last row. But when you copy, Origin is smart to know where the data ends. So it doesn't create a table with unnecessary rows. So it trimmed it to the last row where actual data existed. So this way you can create tables, format them in Origin, and then take them and paste them in your notes or in your publications, etc. Okay. Again, comments, questions, welcome. Don't be shy. Please tell us what you think about features as we go along. let's see. Okay, frozen panes. So in this sheet, I have a large data set of earthquakes from USGS that I downloaded. And in the magnitude column, magnitude of the earthquake has been colored to show the magnitude. That's also not a new feature. Conditional coloring was introduced in Origin many versions ago. What I wanted to show here is that what I want to do is scroll through this data, but keep the top 10 earthquakes where they are. So I can click on row 11 and a new button appears in this mini toolbar that we added in this version called Freeze Panes. So if I click that, now if I use the mouse to scroll, you can see I'm scrolling the rows, but rows 1 through 10 are fixed. So sort of a reference. I can look at the top 10 earthquakes and then look to see how the others were in terms of magnitude and where they were. You can do a similar thing with columns as well. I can click on a particular column and freeze panes, and then, sorry, a particular column, and then, okay, why doesn't it appear? Maybe I have to unfreeze this. So let me go to edit and let's see, view, unfreeze panes. And then if I click on a particular column, the freeze appears. So at a given time, you can freeze columns or rows. So now I froze the first three columns. Okay. You can also freeze up to a particular cell so that the rows and columns up to that cell are frozen. Okay. May be useful if you're working with a very large data sheet and want to do a lot of scrolling. Okay. Let's see, hide sheets. So another feature is there may be many sheets in your book. You may take some raw data, do multiple processing, do analysis, then do your final graph, etc., or your HTML report. HTML reports are also not new in this version. We had that in previous versions as well. So now what you can do is you can select a particular sheet and right click and say hide it, and then it won't be shown here as a tab. The benefit to that, of course, is that there is less clutter for you to move around between sheets. In the previous version, we added a show organizer button. So if I click on that, I will see all of my sheets, and you can see only 2 sheets are visible, the others are hidden. Okay, so also, you can see in Object Manager, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Object Manager. Object Manager is docked right above the apps bar by default. We have been adding more and more features to the Object Manager. So you can go to the Object Manager and see things here as well. Okay, how your book is configured. Okay, there is also a navigate dialog. Okay, this navigate dialog, what I did was I right clicked on the tab and chose navigate. Navigate dialog lets you even rearrange your sheets. If you have many sheets, you can rearrange them by size, by name, etc., and apply that particular sequence. Here you can also go turn on, turn off sheets. So if I click show, then that particular sheet will show up. Okay. Perhaps it's useful if you work with large data and do many operations and don't want to see all the sheets all the time. Moving on, the next feature, inserting worksheets in graphs or layouts. Okay, so here I have some peak data where the peak is shifting and broadening as a function of temperature. I have performed peak analysis on this, and here is my table that resulted from the peak analysis, which shows the dataset name, which contains the temperature value, and here are the centroid, full width, half max area, height, etc. And I want to take this sheet and put it as a table object into the graph. In previous versions, you'll have to insert a table here and copy paste, etc. So what we did in this version is with the graph active, you can go to the insert menu and say insert a worksheet. Okay, so if I click on it, it'll bring up a dialog where I can navigate and pick my worksheet. So this is a summary sheet in this book. So I choose that particular sheet, click OK, and there is my sheet. Okay, let me make this graph bigger so you can see better. Let me make this layer a little smaller. Okay, less tall. and I can place my sheet here. This is an object rather. This is an object that's linked to this particular graph. If I go make any changes here, this object will change too. It's linked. But the beauty of this is that independent of that sheet, I can do formatting here myself. I can go here and say, okay, make the fonts larger. Okay. And I can say, go here and say, do banded colors. Okay. And I can say add a fill color, just like we did before with that other example where we worked directly with the worksheet. I can go here and say give me a frame that's bolder, and I can go add grid line colors. I can choose what grid lines I want. Do I want grid lines for both vertical and horizontal? So all these choices I can make here. Okay, then I can position my table, uh, align it with the graph, etc. So now I have a nice report where I have the graph as well as the table inside a graph page. And mind you, the same thing can be done with the layout too. I can go to the layout, right click and add a graph and add a worksheet from here as well. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let me see my notes window. Okay. So the key thing here is I can insert and independently format my table to create my nice looking graph with a combined table. Okay. Okay. Uh, Moving on, we have introduced a concept called single layer multi-Y plotting. So let me explain by various examples. So in this worksheet, I have three columns of data. The first is a common time column, and then I have two columns of data, temperature and position. So let me select those two and go to the plot menu, and let me go to multi-axis multi-panel. As you may already know, we had templates such as 3Y, 4Y, etc. We also had double Y, which in this version we renamed as 2Y, and I'll explain why. So first let me choose this 2Y template, which is the old double Y. So if I choose that, you will see Origin created a graph where it has two layers. Okay. In layer 1, it plotted delta temperature with this y-axis here. In layer 2, it plotted the position with another independent y-axis. So now I have two data sets spread over two layers, and then it becomes a little clumsy working with this because I have to handle two layers in my graph. As you can see here, Object Manager also shows two layers. Now let's go see what's new in this version. So if I select this data again, go to the plot menu, go to multi-axis multi-panel, you'll see there are a set of new double Y plots here. Okay, double Y line symbol, double Y bar and line. Let me choose the first one, and you can see now the difference. Let me put them side by side. So this is the old double Y. You'll see two layers. Now you will see the new double Y has only one layer. So both plots are in the same layer. The benefit of that is, let's say, for example, I click here and bring up the mini toolbar. I can make changes such as, say, by plot color, what kind of color cycling I want to do. And because this is grouped, you can see this is grouped. I can make changes in the one layer, whereas in old version I have to go to layer 1, make a change, then layer 2, make a change. Also for analysis, this would be clumsy because layer 1, layer 2, you have to deal with two layers. Here, everything works well with the plots in a single layer. And in the object manager, you can already see it clearly indicates which plot goes with which axis. So you can see, let me pull this out. You can see that the first data plot delta temperature is on the left side and the position is on the right side. What do we mean by left side and right side? So let me double click here. You can see that there is only one layer. And if I click on the data plot, you will see there is a display tab now. The display tab tells me which axis is associated with that plot. So with plot 1, left axis is associated. With plot 2, right axis is associated. So essentially what we have done is, in a single layer, we have allowed the left and the right axes to have different scales. So that's the key feature. Okay. Let's see a few more examples, then it'll become more clear. Here I have another data set with 3 columns of data. Let me select all 3 and let me go to the plot menu and go to basic 2D and do a simple line plot. Okay. Now you can see 2 of the data sets are similar in scale. The third one is not. So now the nice feature of multiple 2 different independent y-axis in the same layer is that I can click and select a particular plot, go to the individual plot details, and I can simply click this new button saying plot it on right Y. So you can see it automatically scaled it, and it gave it a new axis from 2, etc. Very different from the first one. So now I can easily see my related data on 2 axes without having to deal with 2 separate layers. The same thing you could do from here too. I can right click here and I can say plot on left Y, then it will switch to left Y. I can right click here and say plot on right Y, then it will switch to right Y. So it's as simple as going to the object manager or selecting a particular plot and going to the individual plot modification tab and selecting which axis you want to associate the data with. Obviously, in one layer, you can have only 2 axes. So this works well if you only have data that can be grouped to plot together on left axis and another on right axis. Okay, let me show a few more examples. A line series plot. So I'm going to select, let's see. Okay, I'm going to select these 2 columns and go to the plot menu and go to basic 2D, and there is a line series plot here. And you can see because it's one common y-axis and these data are very different in magnitudes, that doesn't look good. But I can click here and then again use this, or go here, right click and say, put the BSPK on the right axis. So now this looks much better. So I have a better representation of my data. Let me show one more example. Here I have a box plot where I have taken the first 2 columns, the weight for the seed and peel of a fruit, which are similar in magnitude, and plotted them. Now let me take the diameter and length quantities. So I'm going to select those. I'm going to hover at the right edge and drag and drop them here. Okay, Origin is saying, do you want to rescale? Yes. So this doesn't look too good. But if I click on the graph and look at the object manager, you will see there are 2 groups, group 1 and group 2. I can click on group 2 now, right click and say plot this on right Y. So I'm moving an entire group to right Y. So my first group of weight quantities is on the left axis, associated with the left axis, and my second group of the diameter and length are now associated with the right axis. So now you can see the power, flexibility of easily working with your data in a single layer and assigning axes to different plots. Please comment if you like this feature or other features you have seen so far. We love to see what your comments are. Our um, development team works very hard to implement features that customers like you ask. We are very customer driven in what we do in the new feature, in the new versions. Okay, moving on. Smart skipping of symbols. So here, let me dog this object manager out of the way. So here I have a graph where the data is rather dense. I have quite a few data points and it doesn't look very appealing. So let me make a copy of this graph. Let me duplicate it. And in this copy, I'm going to open plot details. And at the plot level, you may already know that in the drop lines tab, there is an option to skip points. Okay. So in previous versions, all we had was skipping by increment. So I can go here and say skip by 10 points and click OK. But that's not very good because over here it looks fine, but here it's missing a lot of critical data points. So what we did in this version is we have introduced some smart skipping methods. So I can go to the smart skipping and say smart skip and keep only say 20 points. Okay. And then click apply. So you can see that's working okay. Maybe I put 30 points. Okay, I get more points. So you can adjust the numbers here depending on how your data is. Also, you can go here and change the method. Do you want a white threshold method or So that method works much better with this data, as you can see. So there are multiple methods. So depending on your data and depending on your um, distribution of your data, you can pick a suitable method. And then you could even save this as a template for similar data, and these settings will be remembered. You can also do percentage skipped. So I can say skip 95% of my points, please, and then only 5% will be plotted. Okay. Again, you can change the methods here and apply. Okay. So by the way, even though the data is represented like this, if you perform analysis, all the data points will still be considered. So it's only a cosmetic eye candy sort of thing, where some customers have complained, hey, I have too many points, my graph doesn't look good. So here's a way to skip points and still maintain the whole data set and perform analysis on the whole data set. Moving on. Okay. Next feature. Um, so I have a worksheet here where I have multiple columns. One is a time column, and I've colored them so you can see time is monotonically increasing. And I've measured pressure and temperature, and you can say they are all jumbled up. They're not monotonically increasing or decreasing. So I've created a plot here of pressure versus temperature, and you can see the data points. Origin always connects data row 1 to row 2 to row 3 to row 4 to row 5. Okay, so what we have done in this version, we have included a way to sort the data in the graph without sorting data in the worksheet. So with the graph active, let me go to the script window. Okay, right now there is no GUI control for it. It's only from script. So I'm going to copy this particular line here. Okay, Control C. I'm going to put that in the script window. And essentially it says in my layer for plot 1 for the line sort the X. So if I press that, you can see now without making any changes to my worksheet, it's connecting the data points by sorting them in the X-axis order. So it's connecting point 1 to 15, then to 2, then to 14, then to 10, etc. So this may be useful for you. One might argue, why not sort the worksheet? Go here and sort this worksheet based on temperature ascending. But then if you have many columns of data and you're looking at plots between multiple pairs, you would have to keep sorting and then it'll break the other graphs. So with this property, you can keep the data structure intact and simply sort while plotting. Okay. Moving on, angle annotation. This may be of use to some of you. We have introduced a new toolbar here. It's under this toolbar where annotation was, distance annotation, plane annotation. These existed in previous versions. Now angle annotation is new. So this would then bring a cursor here. I can hold the A key to zoom into my graph if I want. Okay, then I click on one point here. Then I click on my origin and click on another point here, and it'll add an angle object. Okay, I can double click on this object and open a properties. It's called protractor. And I can go to the arc tab and I can make changes here. For example, I can say show the arc at 75% of where I clicked. And I can say, okay, change it to red, change the width to 2, etc. You can customize, okay, the line to, okay, you can make, actually I should have changed the line color first because the arc will usually follow the line color. I can set it to auto, and I can set the width to auto and go change the line and then apply. Then everything will apply. Then I can do arrow. If I want arrows, I can choose different arrows for my lines, etc. Okay, so perhaps that's useful. Let me zoom back to 100%. Okay, a feature that a particular customer requested and we added. Okay. Next, page and layer title. So in past versions, it wasn't easy to add a text label to a page and center it. You would have to click the text button, click here, and try to center it by the eye. There wasn't really a reliable method. So what we have done here is, if I click outside of everything at the page level in the mini toolbar, there is a new button that we added called page title. So if I click on that, it gives me an object. I can double click in here and erase everything here and paste the text that I copied. And if I click outside, that's my page title. Now, let me show a few things. If I click on the page title, I can change my, use the mini toolbar to change my font size, for example. And you can see as I change my font size, it is auto wrapping and still staying centered. So that's the key thing here. I don't have to struggle with centering. There is also a new button that comes up when you add a page title, which is box width. So I can say, make this to be 85% of my page, please. Then it will stretch it to be 85% and still centered. I can go here, change my font. I can change this to some other font that I want. Okay, so all that will still keep it all centered. So that's the main feature here. Then you can publish the graph, not worrying about is it centered on my page. And the same thing applies to a single layer graph as well. If you click here, you'll get the button and you can add a page title to single layer as well. In this case, it happens to be multi-layer graph. I tend to speak fast. We have a few more versions to cover before time's out. Questions, comments, please feel free to chat. Okay, export with preview and link. So let me quickly show what we have done here. So here I have a graph where I have inserted that nice table. Remember that table feature, you can insert a table and customize it. So this looks like a graph that's ready to publish. So then I can go to the file menu, go to export graph. And as you may know, in older versions, we had an advanced dialog. In recent versions, not this version, previous recent versions, we introduced a simpler dialog. So let me open that simpler dialog. So here I can choose, do I want PNG, BMP, etc. Let me stick with PNG. It's showing me that the graph size is 3 inches by 2.55 inches. That's my page setting. And there is DPI control here. What's new is that I can click the preview button and see a preview of my graph immediately. Okay, I don't have to export and go look for it. I can see it right there. And there are a few controls here. I can stretch my window. I can do Control W to reset. I can do Control A to show it in the true size of 3 by 2.55 inches. Keep in mind that only works with PNG and I believe JPEG. I don't think it works with TIFF. But at least for PNG, you can see the actual size. Then you can say, oh, at this actual size, my symbols are too small. Then you could go make your symbols bigger before you export. Okay, that's one nice feature. The other nice feature is, let's say I export this graph. It's saying the file already exists. I'm going to overwrite it. After I export, in the messages log, in previous versions, we just put the path. In this version, we made it clickable. So you can simply click and view the graph right away. So imagine you exported 10 graphs. You could go and click on any of those links to view the final result. Also, you can control click here to open the folder where that export went to. Okay, so that's new. Control click to open the folder, click to preview. Okay. Now, we have also extended this to a few other graph types. So here is a browser graph. If you don't know what that is, you can go view videos. If you have multiple channels, you could plot that as a browser graph and explore the data. There is a menu here and there is a flip through. The flip through is not new. Okay, this existed before, so you can do slider, etc. to explore your data. There is an export button. That's also not new, but now in the export we have added AVI and GIF. Okay, so let me just show GIF. Click OK. I'll say replace the previous one, and then I can go to the messages logs once the export is done. It's exporting as a GIF file. Okay, so I can click here. There is my GIF file. And if I click on it, my GIF player, let me go full screen. My GIF player, Windows GIF player opens and there is my GIF file. So you can make a video of your data to see how your peaks are shifting as a function of the file name or temperature. Okay. Similar thing can be done with images as well. I have an image window here. We introduced image window a few versions ago. So here I have a stack of images. Okay. So again, here I can go file, export image. and then I can choose TIFF, GIF, etc. right from here. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Contour graphs. As you can see, every version we add quite a few features, and they're all requests from customers like you. So feel free to contact us if there is anything missing in Origin, doesn't work quite well, you have new ideas. We are always ears to hear your suggestions. So here's a contour plot with a certain scale settings I have. I want to add some new levels that were missing. So I double click, I open the plot details, graph, layer, plot level, and here is my contouring information. So here I can go click insert and I can say, hey, give me a new set of levels, minus 100, minus 50, 0, 50, and 100. And go ahead and show the contour labels as well. So if I click that and click apply, you'll see all those levels were added, 0, minus 50, minus 100, 50, 100. Okay. Another new feature, I can go click on a particular contour, click again to select it, and now the mini toolbar has multiple options. I can go change my font color, I can make it bold, for example, I can change the line thickness of that particular level, and I can also quickly extract the contour, all the contours at level 0, which you see here, got extracted to a new sheet. So that's new, a few new additions to contour plot. Okay. All right, new graph types. In Origin, you can always go to the help menu to Learning Center, the F11 dialog. Um, I apologize, on my machine, this dialog for some reason takes a little longer to open. Haven't quite figured that out why. So in this dialog, you can search for graph samples. You can put in keywords and search. You can also search by version. Okay. So for example, here I have already put in the 2023 keyword, and these are all some changes and improvements and new graph types that we introduced. So there is like a ternary vector plot, there is 3D stack map, etc. An easier way to see this is actually going to the highlights page. Let me just go there. Because I can show you larger size pictures here, and scrolling down. So here is like a stacked 3D map that we introduced. Here is a ternary vector plot that we introduced. And here is a improvement to 3D line plot. So previously 3D line plots would just do simple line connection. We have added spline and other options for connection to 3D scatter line symbol plots. Now, in Origin, I wanted to point out that under the Tools menu, we also have a Template Center, which was introduced a few versions ago. The App Center was introduced many versions ago. You may be familiar with apps. Apps are free tools you can download anytime and add to your Origin. Apps come in many different flavors for importing, for graphing, etc. If you're not familiar with the apps window, it's usually docked on the right side, and you can go click add apps, and the app center will open, and here you can search. For example, you can go here and say, what are the apps you have for statistics? Okay. Then you can see we have added several. In the latest version, we added bootstrap sampling. There's a Gaussian mixture model that was introduced a few versions ago. There is design of experiments. Okay, various apps for uh, statistics available. You can put any keywords here, for example, curve fitting, and search what's available in curve fitting. Okay, and then simply download them. The only limitation of apps is that a minimum version is required, and some of them are pro only. And we clearly state that if it's pro only, it's shown. For example, enzyme kinematics is pro only, whereas some other one here, operations manager, is for both standard and pro. Okay, so similar to the app center, what I wanted to show was we also have a template center. So template center is where we put in new templates for you to download. As you may know, Origin ships with hundreds of graph templates, but we decided to not keep adding and cluttering the plot menu. We decided we'll keep it on our server, and if you want it, you come and get it. So you can come browse here. So for example, let's say you want a before after bar chart. you can click this button to download that. Now that template will get added to your collection. And the way to see that is with the book active. If I go to the plot menu, here are all the pre-shipped templates, but then you can go to the template library, and in the template library you will see there are system templates, okay, which is all the pre-shipped ones, user templates, which are the ones that you created or you customized. Then there are extended templates, which are the ones that you can download. So you can see that one I just downloaded. So I can select it, then I can say open sample. Then Origin will open a sample for that particular template. Then I can study the data structure and see how to create this graph myself with my data. Okay. New apps. Again, as I showed you in the App Center, let me show over here. These are some of the new apps that we added in 2023. Apps are not added just at the time of release. We keep adding apps as and when the requests come from customers like you. So for example, there's a Pulse Fit app that was requested by a particular customer who had data with thousands of pulses and wanted to perform a quick analysis of the rise and fall, decay times, etc. So we urge you to share ideas with us for apps. We are very keen to create apps that benefit the user community in general. Okay, one last thing to show here, book organizer, we made some improvements. So let me show that by bringing in some data here. So I have a XML file that I want to import. So let me go here and go to the data menu, connect to file. As you may know, you can connect to many different types of files, including XML, which was improved in the recent versions. So if I come in and bring in my XML file, you can see there is a header branch with a lot of metadata, and there is a data block. In previous versions, the header would not come in. So that's an improvement we made. So let me click at the top measurement level and click the arrow button and add it. Click OK. You will see the data came in. Now if I click on this button, it will show the organizer panel. And if I click on the file name and if I click on measurements, you will see here is all that good data, okay, that I had extracted from the header. So that's available as part of your book now. Okay, now let's go make a graph. Let me just make a simple line plot. And let me say I want to add a page title here using one of the properties from here, for example, run type. So I can click on run type, right click and say copy node path. Okay, that's new. So I come here, click outside the page, add this new property of page title. Okay, then I go erase that, right click, and I can say paste link. So you'll see it put in a particular syntax. You don't need to worry about the syntax because you simply copy and paste link and Origin takes care of the syntax. So Origin is saying for this graph, go to the book, go to the organizer, find that variable, put that in. Okay, so let me simply make this a little larger. That's my run number. So now I can come here, for example, change this data. I can change the data source. I can go here. I can choose sample 2 and click OK and bring in the data. Okay. And okay, this. So that updated. There was a hiccup there. I had to click it. I don't know why. I'll report that to our development team. It should update by itself. Right now, it looks like it needs a refresh. But anyway, it's linked to the metadata. So if the metadata changes as a result of new import, the label will catch on. So those are the key features I wanted to go over. But I wanted to say that if you go to the 2023 page and scroll down, there's a whole host of other small features, okay, that are listed here. Eventually, we will link to a release notes. We haven't done that yet. The release notes will have lots more detail. So here there are several small improvements. So for your work through, one of these improvements may be a big thing. So I recommend that you look through here and see what else is new. Okay. Also, again, going back to the support page, to the help center, you can go to webinars, and that page has recordings from webinars. So here's the webinar that we are currently running just now. but there are recorded webinars. So this is where you will go to download the recording and the project from today. Okay. So after a few days, by Monday, it should be up there. So you can go download it. Again, just to show you, go to support, and you can even click directly on this icon. You don't have to go to Help Center. You can click directly on training webinars. It opens the main webinar page. You can request a webinar. We have custom trainings if your organization is interested. And new webinars we'll put up here. And then all the recorded webinars are available here. There are many webinars from the past that you can still play and download the project and follow along. Thank you all so much for your time. I hope this was helpful. Again, I want to emphasize, we want to continue hearing from you. The new versions we publish really depend on users like you for new ideas and improvements for Origin. Any questions, comments, please continue to put in the chat window. Otherwise, I wish you all happy holidays and have a nice rest of the afternoon. Thank you. I'll leave the webinar running in case you have questions. Okay, looks like no other questions. So let me go ahead and close the webinar. You can always contact us with follow-up questions anytime. Thank you. Have a good day.